Loads better. So you're getting a little bit older, you are no longer a teenager, and you're advancing in years. Well, welcome to adulthood, but no one gives you a guide or a rule book for what adulthood actually is. So in this video, we're going to be talking about what are some of the hallmarks of being an adult. And today we're looking at the most basic one, taking responsibility for yourself. This is the Lifecraft Code channel. Here we go. So over the coming weeks, these are going to be quite short, snippety videos. We're going to look at 9 different aspects of adulthood, things that I've observed, picked up, talked about with different people that kind of make an adult what an adult is, or maybe what you would expect from an adult. So, you know, I'm in my early 30s, still fairly quite young, but I've learned some lessons the hard way as well. I would love to be able to say that this is the comprehensive list. You won't need to know anything else. This will solve all of your problems in life, but it won't. This is just some things which I think make up adulthood. When you look at somebody who is older than 18, and you know, when you was a small child, you thought, well, that person is a responsible adult. Well, what does that look like? So the most obvious one is being a responsible person. Taking responsibility for yourself is what makes you a responsible adult. And of course, you can be younger than 18 or the official legal age of adulthood and still take responsibility for yourself. And you can be much older, you can be in your 30s, 40s and 50s and be somebody that never takes responsibility for yourself. And I think a part of adulthood isn't so much about age, but it is about mentality and maturity. There comes a point when you realize that first and foremost, the world doesn't owe you anything. The world doesn't owe you any favors. And so our existence should not be taken for granted. Like every good thing you have, you ought to be grateful for, but also you're responsible for you. You're not responsible for the actions of other people. You're responsible perhaps for the influence you have on other people. But when you and I get to the end of this life and we stand before the Almighty, we're not going to give an account for somebody else's actions. We're going to give an account for our actions. And when you become an adult, it becomes your responsibility. You're no longer a child. Someone is no longer responsible for you. You are responsible for you. And if you haven't learned to keep a tantrum under control, if you haven't learned how to not let your day be thrown by the small things, or when you perhaps don't get your own way, get upset and get down, if you haven't learned to manage those emotions, you still effectively have a young mentality. It's now time for you to shape your thinking and shape your heart and mind. You know, if you get on the wrong side of the law, you're now held accountable as an adult by law, but also that works socially. You know, people have less graces the older you get. They think, well, you're older, you're wiser, you should know better. And that only happens if you start to take responsibility for your words and your actions in every part of your life. You know, imagine if you're in your 40s and 50s, you're later on in life, and you're still behaving like a child. You're still throwing a paddy, you're still throwing a tantrum when you don't get your own way, you're still making childish jokes, or you're undermining authority because things aren't happening the way you want them to happen. Imagine if you're behaving like a toddler still in your 40s and 50s, and you might have even met some people like that, and it's just cringy to watch somebody that's not willing to take ownership for their own lives. And so the first thing I thought about adulthood was that you ought to take responsibility for your life. Nobody else is responsible for you. You are responsible for you. People are going to look at you and go, well, he brought it or she brought it down upon themselves, or they made their own bed, they've got to lie in it. Those kind of phrases emerge because we expect adults to be responsible. And so if you are to own adulthood, and whether you like it or not, you are going to advance in years, you are going to become older, you're going to become a mature adult, at least physically. Why not become a mature adult emotionally and mentally? So here's the challenge for today. You know, we've got a blog that we're writing on this, and you can find a link down in the description. But what can you do to take more responsibility? What can you do to take more ownership of things in your life? Are there areas where you're blaming other people for things that happen to you? Are there things within your ability, your control, that you can change if you have the mindset of taking ownership? Click the thumbs up for a like. Always rooting for you. Ciao.